Hello, sustainability. It's a word you keep hearing these days, but as an investor, what is it and why should you really care? We'll answer that question for you with Carrie Johnson, who's here with me. She's Senior Lecturer for the Master's Program at National University of Singapore that deals with these issues. And she's also a Director of Paya Consulting, which helps companies understand and manage sustainability issues. Thanks for coming in, Carrie.
Thank you, Mark.
Wow, what a fascinating subject. A lot of buzzwords, but what is it really?
Sustainability is really about the environmental, social and economic returns from a company. So it's about the way in which a company does business whilst bearing in mind the environment and its impact on wider society. So, I mean, if you think about it really, these things are all interrelated. That if a company is focusing on its economic returns and not really considering its impacts on the environment or on the societies in which it operates, then over time it is unlikely to perform as well economically.
So give us an example. I mean, is it really just about, turning off the lights at the end of the day to save electricity, reduce the carbon footprint, recycling paper in the office or that sort of thing? Or is there something more that we can imagine under this term sustainability?
It's about those things, but it's really about a company assessing its risks. What are its key environmental and social risks? And for every company that will be different. For some companies there could be risks around its labour relations. For another company there could be risks around the environment, around the use of toxic chemicals, for example, or its waste pollution, climate change, carbon tax. There are many different risks, and it's about a company identifying those.
It's interesting because as soon as you say risk, actually that is something that investors would start to listen to. But why is it that we tend to think of sustainability as a feel-good, something that is for others to worry about, a nice to have?
Because, I mean, I suppose some of it comes across in that way, but the reality is now it's a business risk. It's also a business opportunity. Companies that are managing sustainability well tend to perform much better over the longer term than those who don't. So
to understand also what sustainability is, can you perhaps help us understand what sustainability isn't? What is not an example of sustainability which people might think it is?
Another word for sustainability is also corporate social responsibility, also corporate citizenship, corporate responsibility.
Yeah.
They're all the same thing. Environmental social governance is also one of the phrases that's used. But I think there's a lot of confusion sometimes around CSR being philanthropy. Now, that is one small part of CSR, but it is not the main. It's not the full picture.
So a company, let's say, embarking on a tree planting program so that they have something for the annual report is probably less a sustainability issue than changing processes, workflows, hiring processes.
Yes, very much so.
What can we in fact put our finger on exactly what the payoff is from companies managing these sustainability issues well compared to those who don't manage them well?
Over the longer term, the companies that are managing it well do tend to outperform on share price for those who don't.
We have a chart on that right here.
Yes.
So the line that's moving higher than the line at the bottom. What is the difference between these two?
Yes. Well, this was a study by Harvard Business School looking at 180 companies over 18 years. And tracking their share price performance. The top line are those who have implemented sustainability and take a high, have endorsed sustainability in a high way. The lower line are those who've done much less on sustainability. Increasingly, the value of the company is becoming, the sustainability elements are becoming very crucial in the valuation of companies. And again, that's a changing trend.
Right, and again, so what does this chart here tell us, this bar chart?
So this chart shows us the value of the S&P 500, and I think what's really stark here is the growth in the value of the intangibles.
Right, so that's that bar that's the bottom bar that's growing.
Yeah, yes. So I mean, there's a huge difference over these 40 years whereby now increasingly those intangibles are actually seen to be a significant part of the valuation of companies.
Okay, so now we know what sustainability is and also the importance for investors. Where do you actually go to find this information?
Yeah, well, there's several different places that companies may well disclose information, and it could be a combination of all three. So for some companies, it's within their annual report. So it's actually a part of the annual report itself. For others, it's a standalone sustainability report. Or companies may do a bit of both. They may have some information in the annual report and further information in their sustainability report. For others, it's an integral part of the website. There may well be, you may well see on their homepage a drop-down box on sustainability or corporate social responsibility or ESG, environmental social governance, and underneath there will be a lot of other information. So companies use a combination of those three approaches.
Once you've found it though, then how do you assess whether the information is actually really useful? Because sometimes it might just be that there's a little subheading saying CSR initiatives and it's maybe one or two nice sounding paragraphs. So what are you actually looking for once you've found the sustainability report, once you've found the section in the annual report?
Yeah, some of the key things to look for would be firstly to have a flick through the CEO statement and in the annual report itself and just see, is there any mention of sustainability in that?
In the CEO statement?
Yes, yeah. Just see, has the CEO mentioned climate change, environment, social issues, sustainability in the CEO statement at all? I mean, ideally there should be a few paragraphs on sustainability within the CEO statement. That just shows you that the senior management team are assessing the risks of the environmental and social risks.
And they're actually thinking about it.
And they're thinking about it. So that's a very good starting point. Then have a look through the further information, whether that's in the AR or whether it's in the sustainability report or on the website itself. And just see, have they actually assessed what the key risks are? Because there are many different risks facing companies in this area and very divergent. And for each company, what's applicable to them will vary. So you should look to see, have they assessed significance, which is really materiality, and clearly defined, okay, these are our key risks. They should state, these issues are the key things that we're focusing on because we believe these to be our most significant risks. And then see, is there performance data? You know, is it a lot of words with no data and no substance behind those? Or is there actually performance data showing trends over time of how the company is doing? And of course, you should also be looking to see if the company is meeting international standards on disclosure, on sustainability. So, for example, have they applied the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, guidelines or other similar industry standards on disclosure? And ideally targets. You know, if a company is really committed to sustainability, then they should be disclosing future targets and performance against those targets.
If you then show up to the annual general meeting and you wanted to raise a question on this, what would be the sort of questions that you would expect investors to ask?
I mean, if I was an investor in a company, I would want to know whether, to the extent to which the senior management has considered its environmental and social risks. I mean, those are risks that will impact the performance, the financial performance of the company over the long term. So I would want to know the extent to which the senior management had assessed those risks, whether they were disclosing their performance against those risks, whether they intend to in the future, and also how the company approaches sustainability.
And once you've asked those questions, what do you do with the answers? In other words, will that help you determine whether to or not to keep holding on to those shares?
It certainly would, because I mean the companies that are endorsing sustainability are outperforming over the long term. And also for me personally, I don't really want to be investing in companies which are having a significant environmental impact, say involved in toxic chemical releases or deforestation or have very poor labour practices. I suppose sometimes there's also a personal choice to support and endorse companies that are investing in the future.
Okay, but finally then, what if you were to just say, well, you know, I'll leave the whole sustainability issue to somebody else to worry about, like the big pension funds, they can worry about that. Me, well, I'm just looking for my own personal retirement fund or to build up my nest egg. What's your message to investors who might be saying, well, this is still not important to me?
Well, I mean, what we've seen from the charts earlier is that actually if you focus on the companies that are endorsing sustainability, they will outperform on the long term, for pension funds especially, over those who are not. They are more likely to be around in the future. They are less likely to have a major environmental incident that may significantly affect their share price, or issues around society, around their labour relations. So they're far more likely to perform better in the long term.
All right, Carrie Johnson, thank you very much for coming in. And if you want to learn more about sustainability, particularly as it pertains to you as an investor in Singapore and Singapore-listed companies, download the Investor Guide from the SGX website. That'll help you understand more about the issues and the questions that you need to ask of the companies that you're invested in. Thanks for watching.